Matt Hedstrom, welcome to the podcast, my friend. How are you today?
Totally amazing, man. Thanks for having me on. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this, man. We connected, I think, last week, and we set this thing up. And if people aren't familiar with Matt, he's in one of my masterminds called Multipliers. I met him a couple years ago once I joined, and he's just an awesome guy. He's got a great business. He does a lot of great stuff in the world with giving back, and we'll talk about that at the end, I'm sure. So, Matt, before we get into everything, I mean, how did you originally just get into real estate? Because, you know, you've been in the GC / rehabbing field for a long time.
Yeah, man. Great question. It's one of these things that man, growing up in poverty, I never even thought I'd own a house, and now we're, flipping hundreds of homes and been in over 1,000 rehabs. So I've always been a GC and over 25 years in multiple states, and made a big risky move back when everything crashed. Came to Wisconsin from Minnesota and knew it was a really bad short-term decision, but long-term it would be good. And part of that, I took the first job that I've ever had with a company where I was VP, and I was going to be groomed to be the president. It was a kitchen and bath place, and I grew their granite business that they started from scratch into a basically all installed products from this kitchen and bath manufacturer that we sent product all over the nation. And so they knew very soon when all of a sudden, things were going down, because we were dealing with like Pulte homes all over the country. And so when I came in, it was like, I was supposed to, save the day kind of a thing. And that's where I got my doctorate, man, in trying to find angel investors, redoing our health care plan, redoing our union contract for our shop. And during that process, I was sitting in, Eric,
of
his
course,
RIA in Milwaukee, Eric Lundberg. And man, I was sitting there selling cabinets and countertops in a blue market, blue ocean strategy. We had never even gone in our own state. We were selling, we had over 60 stores in Home Depot in Chicago alone. So we had a whole fleet of trucks every morning that go out. So I find myself sitting in the room in the RIA, and all of a sudden, my ears perked up. It was a short sale presentation. And I went, wait a second. I'm looking around the room going, this makes total sense, and I could do this. And sure enough, man, that started my whole career. I bought a short sale course, and I still to this day have a short sale negotiating business. And so it feeds a lot of our flips, the short sale business. So even though those have fallen off, well, in your area, you guys still have California has been clean for years of those properties, but East Coast, man, everything spreads, right? Goes west to east, and you guys still have a ton of inventory.
Oh, it's crazy. In Long Island, it's like there's so many upside down houses. Even in the Hudson Valley, where I was born and raised, it's because it takes forever to foreclose. That's the problem.
Right.
It takes literally 10 years.
I find people in your area all the time that haven't paid their mortgage for 6 or 7 years. And people just sit there and go, how is that possible? And I say, look, man, the banks are extremely strategic about everything they do. Trust me, right down to demographics and neighborhoods on who they foreclose on and how many they do and when they do. So that's something that we don't decide, they do.
Totally. It's crazy. I mean, I just bought a pre-foreclosure yesterday. The guy hadn't paid his loan. This was in Delaware though, so it was a little south of me. He hadn't paid the loan in like 3 years. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, so you did a short sale deal. What was walk me through your first deal, if you could remember, because it's always, people are always like, man, that first deal, it's so hard to get, once they get it, they have the confidence to then obviously move forward.
Bro, that is a great question, and one I don't get asked. So, of course you remember it vividly. And right. So here's how it went. I've got a coach. I've got a little Google group with a Google Voice number, and this is my first exposure, right, to this whole rodeo. Yeah. And I'm just doing what my coach says, and I'm sending out these letters. I'm finding pre-foreclosure lists, and I remember the first time that my phone rang, and I remember where I was standing. I remember where my wife was, and I literally looked at the phone and said, "Oh my gosh, somebody's calling me on this number." And she goes, "Well, answer it, dummy." And I literally pick up the phone. "Hey, this is Matt." And the guy says, "Yeah, hey, I got your letter." And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I sent it to you. Click. I hung up. I literally hung up on this guy. Right.
Oh my God.
And my wife's yelling at me like, what are you doing? Call him back right now. And so what happened with my first deal then, I got hooked up with a woman who didn't speak any English. We had to use her daughter for the whole transaction.
Espanol?
See, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so daughter spoke perfect English, and we were able to get through. And next thing you know, 3 months later, I have a check in my hand for $13,000. And I was like flabbergasted, man, because at that point, dude, I didn't even know what a title company was. Like I just followed the process, and next thing you know, they're like, okay, find a title company. You know, I'm like, okay, where do you find one of those? So you and I are 100% firm believers in coaching. We have coaches in multiple areas in our lives, even including fitness. And that's how you get quick to the finish line. And so after that, man, of course, I'll take any call at any time now. Don't give me any details, and I'll turn it. You know, I don't need to know what they're calling, what kind of list, anything. You know, we'll figure it out. That's what we do.
Dude, that's amazing. The phone was a cactus at first, and now it's your best friend, you know?
Right. And you do that through experience and training and all the tools that we have at our disposal. So you need tools in this business, and that's how it goes.
The tools make you go so much faster, man. They make it's like I was reading a book the other day, and it was that famous quote: "If I had 6 hours to chop a tree down, I'd spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." Right. Right. So it's powerful. So a couple things about short sales, and then we'll get into real rehabs.
Yep.
When you're doing shorts, I mean, at least I've done a few of them in my business. One was in Dallas, one was in New York. One of them was actually pretty easy. Like it was called a short pay. The lender basically said, screw this. We don't even want it. They took like 10 cents on the dollar. I assigned it. They didn't care. And it was like easy. And then I've tried this dozens of times with other banks, and it's like a whole dog and pony show. And it's got to go on the MLS and this and that. So what do you look for to like really, like if you're doing a short sale, to like not get your time wasted? Because a lot of people, you know, they spin their wheels and they don't get anywhere with short sales.
Yeah, you have to understand that that is not typical, and I've never seen an assignment with. It
was a unicorn. It was a total unicorn. Yeah.
Yep. So there is a very precise process that you have to follow. Anybody can do it, but you can't just jump in the game, and you can't take all these guys that you used to do them, because the rules change so much, because the bank makes the rules. Let's be honest. And 100%. So as soon as a giant changes things, everybody follows. So you have to know right away on the front end who that back end investor is. You know, is it a Fannie loan? Is it USDA? Is it conventional? Because that's how the rules are defined for that short sale.
Got it.
So you got to know that the most important process that you have to follow and be aware of is that BPO appointment. So the difference with us then versus everybody else, and especially agents that just list these, you got to remember the agent is driven by the commission. So they're going to put this house on the market for as much as they possibly can and just say it's a short sale, right?
100%.
With us, we come in with a cash offer immediately. It doesn't even go, it goes on the MLS under contract already, and it doesn't matter if we offer $1 for the property. Okay. That first offer means nothing. It just means that the seller accepted an offer. You send it to the bank, which actually is what puts it into loss mitigation, and then moves it into the foreclosure department and issues a BPO. That BPO is the most important process that you follow very, very tightly, because we meet every BPO agent out there, because we give them a packet of information that shows comps, it shows your offer, it shows your Rehab Estimator Pro for value on your rehab, and it shows them how you got to that number. Okay. And so from there, they do their own due diligence and give the number to the bank, and that's what the bank uses. Now you can go and you can take and dispute that value with certain investors, and some investors, like you probably dealt with, was conventional. They just go, no, we'll take our chances at share sale, or no, we want this much and we're not willing to deviate. Yeah. Or what's funny is when you come down, I've watched this trend for over 10 years. When you come down into December, they want to get this property off their books, and they'll do anything. They'll tell you right there. The negotiator will call you and say, if you can get this deal done by the end of the month, then we'll approve it. And that's go time. So that's when the deals are plentiful.
That
So,
makes sense because they don't want to have that crap on their books in the next calendar
right.
year.
Yep. They get to write it off and be done.
Yeah. And it's like a 40, 50 cents, 60 cents on the dollar right now is better than 85 cents on the dollar after I pay the attorney. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So it's basically just working that process because, in Long Island and whatnot, it's just such a long process. A lot of people just bow out. And
Yep.
I mean, you could do home run wholesale. I mean, you could not wholesale deals. You have to close on them. Well, right. The one loophole with the wholesale and short sale, I know a guy who creates an LLC, like 123 Main Street LLC, yep. and then he sells the LLC, right, which yep. has the property in it, and he can take his yep. assignment fee. But
yeah, man, that's a great point because a lot of people just aren't aware of that. You're selling the LLC. Oh, by the way, it happens to have an asset in it.
Yes.
And then, yes. So here's another one, man. You'll love this. I take very trusted people in my circle. One of them is my attorney, who is a flipper. And
I know your attorney.
So, And so we put what we do. A lot of banks will use this ridiculous clause when you go to close, and they won't allow you to resell it for 90 days. Okay. For 30 days, it's absolutely no. And then 90 days is at 120%. So what we do is we set up a lease for 91 days or 90 days for $1. Okay. And then, so I basically give the flipper the lease to say, you can do whatever you want to the property. And we date the documents for day 91. And then we just go and close on it then. So
got it. That's ninja.
Right. And of course they have to trust you because the deed is still in your name. So they're putting $50,000, $60,000 into this property, and then knowing that, they are going to get it. And then you trust them as well in this whole process that they're going to close. That's really creative too. Yeah. It's funny. The banks always make it so unreasonable. It's like, what? It's like 90 days. Like, what does it matter? You're getting your money. Like, who cares that? Like, don't count my money. Right. I mean,
that's FHA crap. Oh.
Great insight, man. Because tell me this, if I go buy one of the brand new Broncos on the car lot, they don't tell me, now listen, buddy, you can't resell this Bronco in 90 days. I know there's a market adjustment on here and you could sell it for, 10,000 more, but you can't resell it for 90 days. Nobody in the entire world tells you that. Okay. So why do the banks get to put this, moratorium on your, on your sale?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I try to stay away. I mean, I have rentals, so I do refi these properties, and I found one bank that's local and they're pretty good for the most part. But even hard money, I just took out a hard money loan yesterday, and it's just jumping through the hoops and all that stuff. And it's like, I always say, like I was telling my friend the other day, I said, dude, whoever's loaning the money is the one who's in full control. I said, the buyer is not in control. It's the lender, 100%.
Always. They make the rules.
They make the rules. So the biggest thing that I know that you're an expert in, besides short sales, is rehabbing houses and doing construction. And you even have a software that you created to make this streamlined, this process a lot easier for people. So I want to spend the bulk of the show today really just going into rehabbing houses, how to do it the right way, how to not get burned by contractors. I mean, there's so many things that go into this, but I see so many investors get into trouble, right? Rehabbing houses. And I've had projects that's gotten a little weird too. I mean, I've tried to always, keep them on a tight leash, but sometimes they do escalate and they get a little crazy. So, I mean, before we kind of get into some specifics, I mean, what are some, let's just get into, what are the top things you see investors doing that cause their projects to get crazy, whether that's with contractors or with how they manage them? I mean, there's just so much that goes into this, and I see a lot of people get burned like every week. Yeah, no, that's great. Right now, and I hate to 100% focus on exact market conditions because we don't ever stop. We don't operate in fear. You know that. We keep plowing. You buy a property at a discounted amount. Yeah, enough of a discount. And it'll always be there. It's a tangible asset, man, that I can go look at and walk in, right? 100%. I don't have to look on my dashboard every morning. So, so you can get scared with things like, hey, oh my gosh, materials are up almost 30%. Depends on where you're at. 350,000 jobs have vacated construction right now. All of your aging talent has left. Wages are up to attract skilled labor. We can look at those market conditions and talk about that. But the bottom line is, you as an investor,
look, if I put my GC hat on and I'm working for you, say you hire me, Greg, you have to remember right now that you have to control every penny on that job, right? There's two things that you can't screw up when you're evaluating a deal. And those are absolute basics in our business, as ARV and your repair costs. You screw those up and your deal goes away. Okay. 100%. Really fast. So you have to control that job and you have to control every penny. If you're going to be the investor that gets a rehab, puts it in your pipeline, and then moves on to the next, well, guess what? You don't show up to your job site, I don't show up to your job site. If you don't care, I don't care. Okay. So you will get invested into this at some point because you have to. Now, it doesn't mean you can set up your business with we can get deep into project management. We can get deep into GC versus you being the GC. We can get into a construction coordinator. These are necessary parts as you scale your business. Totally. You may wear all the hats, but right now you have to know that you have to control every penny in that, because you bought this with a number on it and you have to stick within that number. And so it's still very possible all across the board, man. You can still find the guys and still find the materials, because we know as investors, we can only put so much into this property, right?
100%.
You can't. So it takes a little more work on the front end. For example, just yesterday, I had 2 rentals that need roofs, and we hate that, right? I mean, these are just big costs. We hate seeing those dollars go out. It'll take you a couple years to recover, and if you don't have the reserves, then, you are borrowing money. But I had on one, they basically put out a blanket. Sure, they itemized it, but the big number on the bottom was $15,000 for one and $25,000 for the other. Okay. And then I get a bid back. Yes. Yep.
Are these multi? That's expensive.
It is expensive. It's also a contractor going, you know what? I don't really want this, but if I get it, I'm going to make some big dollars.
Got it. I see.
So then I bring my guy in. That is my drywall guy and my roofer and my cider, and he's got all of his crews. It was $3,800 for one and $11,000 for the other, because it needed all redecking. So you can still find the price you need. You just have to work a little bit harder and know where to find these contractors, which is also a process that you should follow.
100%. That's 100%, man. That's so good. It's funny you're saying this, because I just closed on a flip in Delaware, which is a market. My acquisitions manager lives there. I don't live there. He's boots on the ground. And I actually have 2 contractors going there today to give me estimates. And the way I found them was I used Thumbtack, which is pretty good. It's just a little app. Basically, you can do that. And then I went inside a real estate, there's a real estate RIA Facebook group. And I was like, hey, I got this. And I was very detailed. So I'm always detailed when I'm telling you, this is exactly what I need to have done. This is exactly my timeline. And this is my budget. I usually give them a rough budget because I know the numbers. And I have 2 guys going there later today to give me, to see if they can confirm that budget. But the more detailed you are with these contracts, and these are subs, this isn't like a GC, that you could just kind of see okay, is this a fit? Is this not a fit? One guy was at 25, 30 grand. And I'm like, bro, sheetrock, paint, clean out, fix the deck. I'm like, you're giving me Aunt Sally in her really luxury house price. I need an investor price,
And so I love that you said that, because here's another quick ninja tip.
I love it.
Get to your supply houses. Investors are not aware that they stick with box stores, and they're going to Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or whatever's in your area. I had a guy the other day tell me 5 trips he made because they're contractors. Oh, we need more screws. Oh, we need more grout. Here's the deal. Everyone has professional supply houses. Your plumber does not go to Lowe's. Okay. They go to a plumbing supply house that's in a warehouse that you don't even know is there. Paint stores, HVAC, roofing and siding and windows. We have ABC. It's a national family-owned company, debt-free. And I go in the lot at 6 a.m., okay, to ABC and sit there and wait for 4 guys to get out of their trucks and go talk to them. These are the guys that are grinding every day. Now, get this. They're buying at a professional place. They're up early in the morning, not hungover, and they're running their business. You know what I mean? So you already are dealing with, top-notch guys that don't have signs on their trucks, so they're not selling retail. typically. And even if you get there and you go to the front desk and say, give me 3 of your top guys that pay their bills and show up here. And they'll say, no problem. Here you go.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
a great tip, man. So
yep,
good.
you'll pick up your best guys, and your longest term relationships will be built on that. Okay. Because they have to go there. You want them in the morning, and you want to make sure that, yes, they're running a solid business.
That's so good. And especially too, the ones who pay their invoices there, right? They're not just
Yes.
leaving these big open tabs and getting
Yep.
chased around by the vendors. And man, that's
Yep.
such a good tip. So here's my second follow-up question for that. So when it comes to, because your software really, and we're gonna encourage people to check your software out at the end of the show. Question about scopes of work, because this is where I see a lot of investors, and I've made this mistake. So I'm part of the group, unfortunately.
Yep.
Scope of work, how to communicate, like, because here's the deal with contractors. I'll just give you a scenario and then we'll chop it up. Hey, this is the budget. Okay. Hey, this is the scope of work. Okay, cool. I'll start Monday. Okay, cool. I'll give you $1,000 to start, and then I'll send XYZ over there to check on the progress. And then all of a sudden, Rick goes over there to check on Bob. Bob has not showed up. There's 17 Modelo's on the kitchen countertop. Ask me how I know. Oh, there's a hole in the wall. And then it's like, it just gets all weird. So how do you communicate how you're paying these contractors? Do you get like a DocuSign scope of work signed with like clear expectations? This is how you're getting paid. This is what you're doing. You're doing this, you're doing that. We are both agreeing to this. So if there's any hiccups, we go back to the document that we both signed, and we can don't have to get all pissy at each other.
Yep. Great. I'll go over that in detail right now. Great.
I love
great comment. Number one, let me go back to what you said, because I do love this. So many investors get scared to, reveal their hand. And I love when you said you have no problem showing your budget, because
I just tell them.
Right. That is such a great way. And so many people will say, well, I can make money on this. In the end, here's the deal. I'll make this statement, and I'll be real honest about it. And I've never had anyone challenge me across the country. Every rehab goes over budget. Okay. So, right. So, and even if you say, nope, my numbers were good, then let me look at your timeline, because you have cost every single day that are adding up. Okay. There's a per diem on your job site, whether it's money costs, taxes, or insurance. You have a number. It's $50 to $75 a day. Okay. So if you go over time on your rehab, you've just cost yourself. Okay. So the fact that you can just come and say, here's my budget, I need it to work for this number. Okay. You're not trying to make money. Your money's already built in on that number. So you already have your profit built in on that number. So why sit there and dick around with asking them for quotes when you're showing them already and saying, use this and tell me if it works. Okay. And so when we get into scope of work, there's 2 different ways to do that. Number one, when we're doing with the software, it's a checkbox system. You just check the box. Hey, it needs a roof. Boom. If it, needs windows, boom, put how many windows are in. Now on the back end, it's creating this entire scope of work with exact detail already built in. So it'll tell you exactly what that roof needs. It'll tell you what the windows that are, they're white vinyl, double hung, argon filled, double pane, and they're going to wrap the exterior with aluminum. I mean, done. It breaks out the entire scope of work for you. Now,
does it have the cost in there? Does it take the average of what that would cost across the country?
That's what the software is built on. It's giving you cost by checkbox systems so that the work is done for you. Okay. That is what the entire premise of this system is based on. Okay. So I have another tool, and I'm going to give that to you today, later. So we'll talk after. I have this beautiful document that's already done, and it's many pages long, and it gives you an entire scope of work for any job. Okay. And you just go through and add pictures and delete the stuff that doesn't pertain to that job. Okay. And it even goes in and tells you, hey, look, here's the price. Okay. And here's the timeline we agreed to. By the way, I've added 2 weeks to what you told me it will take, because I'm going to give you grace on this. All right. But if I'm going to give you this grace, if you go over this budget, it's going to cost you $150 every day past this timeline.
Totally.
And by the way, here's the general scope. It's a great document because it gives you all of the general things that you don't need to sit there and type out and write out. And it basically in a nutshell says you're going to leave the house in a condition that you can move into. It's going to be broom swept clean, and you're going to take care of everything as though it was your own house, because we're not going to argue about a scratch in the floor in the end because it wasn't on the scope of work, because you would never leave a scratch in the hardwood floor. Okay. If you were moving into that house and you were the remodeler on it. Right.
Totally.
And then it goes into every single detail in every room, for basic demo. It already has included. You're going to come in, you're going to remove the window treatments. You're going to pull everything out in the walls. You're going to take the doorbell that's all yellow and nasty from nicotine stains and put a new one on, and you're going to change all the light fixtures. And so it's such a basic rundown of what we do in every flip. I put new white receptacles and switches in every house. We're not scrubbing them with a toothbrush or painting them. You know what I mean?
That's a rookie move, man. I've tried that. It's so stupid. I just replace the damn things.
Correct. You get an electrician through, you replace the lights, fixtures, receptacles, done. Okay.
Totally.
And if you need a panel change out, you're already going to know that when you look at the house for the first time.
Totally. So, I love it.
Yep. So that scope is automatically built for you, man. You should not be spending your time, with that process. It should be a checkbox system produced for you, hand it to your subs, and done. Move on. And
give them the number. And it's I like how you agreed with that, because it's like, I don't want to, like, it's almost like with sellers. I say this to my acquisitions guy all the time. Sellers don't want to get 7 offers. I don't want to get 7 estimates. If I can find 2 people, even one sometimes, depending on where I am and who I know, and they can do the thing at my budget, and especially if I've already worked with them, I'm like, let's roll, let's play ball. Here we go. Time is money, man. I don't want 7 guys trancing through my house,
Yeah, that also gives you the ability to value engineer your scope and your budget. Okay.
Totally.
So say they come in and you've got, $7,000 in it for, let's just say, some foundation repairs that all of a sudden, really weren't necessary, and you only spent 2. Well, you've got 5,000 that you're telling your contractor, then that's not my money. There are going to be other things in the project that we can use that towards. Maybe we upgrade the lights to ceiling fans, and, we do something extra in the kitchen or whatever. It gives you that benefit because you already have a budget number that you use to get the deal, right?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Give them the power to value engineer that.
Here's another thing I realized too with contractors. This is just from the experience. Let's say I give them my budget and it's like, let's say it's 25 grand. Let's say I'm doing a basic rehab, right?
Yeah.
And if they know they can get that thing done for 20, they make 5 grand off me. And I don't count their money. I don't count wholesalers' money. I want them to make money. And listen, sometimes they'll get me for 2 or 3 grand and I'm going to make 40 on the house. I'm not going to beat a contractor up over $2,000 when I'm making 40, because he's not. The contractors that I work with really like me because, number one, I pay fast.
Right.
Huge. And number 2, I don't care if they make money as long as it fits my budget. And they know I'm in New York, I'm a straight shooter. So they know I'm not going to bullshit them. I'm like, hey, here's the numbers. Go for it, bro.
Yeah. I have some Airbnbs being built on Lake Michigan. Right. And my excavator just came and we had a $120,000 project to do on the shoreline. And he knew that he was doing it for cost. I'm trying to get him into that business and helping him out. And so with that, the neighbor comes, because I told him, look, the neighbors are going to want to do this because I have the only access with all of my empty lots to their shoreline. But here's the deal. I'm not going to sell it to you as a GC and make money. I want you to go give them a price that is retail so that you're making a ton of money on this and it will absorb your costs, on my project.
Totally.
And that is called relationship, man. And that is what you're there for. So if in that general scope of work, I am not going to waste my time and say, the kitchen faucet needs to be American standard, this model number, and this finish, right? All it says is the faucet needs to be this kind of teardrop pull down faucet, American made, has a warranty, and is a satin nickel finish. If they go find something on clearance that matches that, then they save the money. It gives you give the contractor the power to basically develop that budget so he makes money.
That's so true. I make them buy all their own materials for that reason. I'm like, dude, just send me a picture. I don't care what you buy as long as it is the same. It's the standard one we use. I love how you said that, because I have friends who are very wealthy still in my hometown in New York. and they're still running to Home Depot. And I'm like, bro,
Unbelievable.
I'm like, dude, you're worth $5 million. You own like 70 free and clear houses. Just let the contractor go. Just let him go. Who cares? He's like, I don't know.
It is such an important point because we teach people in that controlling every penny. That does not mean put a cost on your time. Okay. Exactly. You are not controlling every penny at $1,000 an hour if you're running to the store for your contractors. So great example, because I do everything in real time because I do this every day for a living. My guys, I got a full crew on a deck yesterday. Okay. They basically text me at the end of the day and say, hey, on your way home, get this stuff. We need this. And I text him back. I say, bro, you know my program. You have 24 hours. And besides, I have a sales rep at the lumber yard who, if you would have told me this at the beginning of the day, it would be there tomorrow morning. But now you're going to have to go get it and I'll reimburse you, or you're going to have to wait a day for the lumber yard to get it there. That's the bottom line. Don't tell me what you need for fasteners and screws. That should be on your truck. Those are consumable items.
Totally. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not running at that. That cuts into my family time, which is my most important time. And so I'm not investing into your job site. Okay.
I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't go to Home Depot under any circumstances for any reason.
Yep. But we train people the other way and they think they're controlling every penny by running to the store and getting materials. And that is not the way you train your guys. You train, just like you train your acquisitions guy and your bookkeeper, you train your contractor to follow your rules. Just like we were talking about, the bank makes the rules. You as the investor make the rules.
100%, man. Especially with like small stuff. Like I'm like we had like the other day, this is funny because this happens to me so often. We had an issue at a flip where we closed and like there was a final walkthrough and the door wasn't opening. I don't live there. I live across the country. And I'm like, I'm not just going to drop everything I'm doing. Like I couldn't have gotten there if I wanted to, right? In a reasonable time. And I called one of my best contractors. I'm like, dude, can you do me a solid favor? Can you go grab this freaking new door opener? I don't care. Just put it on. I don't care. Like I'll pay you a little bit more because it's an urgent thing.
Yep.
And he got that thing done in 2 hours, right? Because of the relationship. And listen, I paid him good money for it because I'm like, I need this done right now. I'm about to make 40 grand on a flip. And he was able to go do it fast. Pictures done, sent me the receipt, boom. And it's all about that relationship. Yep. And a lot of people are like, they think they have to go out, like run out and get, I'm like, dude, just like I did a rehab in San Diego a month ago.
Yep.
I lived 25 minutes from the project. I think I showed up there twice just because I wanted to meet the one guy I've never worked with. And then I walked there just to make sure it was good. This whole thing was basically getting done virtually. And I lived 25 minutes away because I'm like, here's the budget. You should send me the stuff and just do your thing. Do your magic, man. I don't need to be babysitting you because if you're good, like, and the way that I pay contractors, we'll get into in a minute, it's set up to where I'm only paying them on progress. I'd never give these guys a huge down payment. It's always like, so let's actually get into that because this is where a lot of investors get smoked. Paying contractors.
Let me add to this real quick because that's really good.
Yeah.
Don't forget, because this is gold. Do not pay your contractor full. I always leave $5,000, enough to make it hurt.
Yes.
Until after that home inspection. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Because that is a part, and we know by experience, your contractors are on another job with all their tools spread out. The last thing they're going to do is jump when you call and say, hey, bro, these 3 things. You put it as part of your contract in the beginning that says final payment is upon substantial completion after the home inspection. Totally. And basically $5,000. It's not escrowed. It's just held by you to say, hey, there are going to be some silly, stupid things like a door latch or something that comes, and you don't want to be scrambling and running yourself to put wood chips down in the middle of the night. Right. So good. Also, your last point, I just finished a flip in Woodstock, Illinois. I hate buying houses in Illinois, but it's an attorney state. It's everything, it's not just title company, but it was a great $70,000 flip. Okay. So, in that, I only showed up to get the contract signed. Okay. The entire flip got done, inspected, appraised. It got staged, staging removed, and sold. I've never been back to the house since.
I love it.
Now that's how you should run your business as an investor. Okay.
And that's how you could do multiple jobs at once without running around like a chicken with your
That's how you run 10 to 12 at a time.
Totally.
Yep.
It's so true too. Cause like, I don't like going to houses, and I'm a real estate investor, which people can't believe that. And I'm like, here's the deal. Physically making an appearance at the property, unless you're signing the contract, right? That's obviously very valuable.
Yep.
It's kind of bullshit. It's like, just, you can have other people at the house, and people are like, dude, how do you just buy this house? You never saw it. It's like, dude, I had someone see it. It wasn't me. Contractor saw it. Acquisition manager saw it. You know, handyman, whoever saw it, property runner saw it. It's all about what's the highest and best use of your time when you're managing a lot of jobs at the same time.
Yeah. Tell me,
a good team, they're going to take care of it.
That is it, man. You have to have a team in place. So tell me this, when you go work with your mortgage broker or banker or however, and even you could put private money lender in there as well. But let's just take a retail house. Ever in the history of doing this, has a banker ever come to the house to check on it or progress or see what they're buying? Never. They loan out millions and millions and millions of dollars on houses that they never, ever see once. Okay.
100%.
They trust the process that happens, and they get the mortgage funded, and they don't even know if there's a house there, really, to be honest, if there's just a hole in the ground, or it's a porta potty, or it's a house, right? Because they have an appraiser that takes pictures. They have a buyer that's walked through the house. They have an inspector that goes through the house. Trust the process, man. Trust the process.
Man, that is so freaking good. It's so funny you say that, because we do so many like hard money loans and private. It's like, these guys never see the house. They don't care. They don't care. No. They don't care. So paying contractors, that's a big one. Yep. So how do you advise people to pay contractors the right way? If they're doing it, let's say, especially if it's a decent rehab, like a 60,000 plus rehab, which can get complex.
Yep. No, great point, and one that needs to be discussed. The thing is, when we break it down, we have an easy one-page payment schedule that everyone agrees to. You sit down with your contractor and you ask them the question, hey, does this seem fair to you? Because of course they're going to say yes, because they're not even in the job yet. The pain comes when they start swinging a hammer, right?
Totally.
So in the beginning, everybody's excited about signing contracts and getting a down payment. So they just agree to everything you throw in front of them. I don't break it up into any more than 5 payments. Okay. And it's very specific. I'll have 5 with a final that's due. Okay. But you can also use rules that you to do this on the beginning if you're a new investor, and say, some people use the rule of $10,000 a week. Okay. If this is a $60,000 rehab, it's a 6-week project, and you'll get paid this much. It is very important. Never break this up into 50% down and 50% on completion. Guys are doing too many projects, and they'll chase the money. That's the problem. We do it all the time. So you need to keep your guys there and know that if they finish the drywall and literally get it sanded and primed by Friday, they'll get a check for 10 grand. Guess who's there at 8, 9 o'clock at night? They're getting your job done for you while you're sleeping. Okay. That's what happens when you pay guys consistently. Like you said, you always pay. Those will be your most loyal guys in the world. You'll have long-term relationships because they're getting screwed by so many other people out there and by weaker investors. And so if you pay every week and give them substantial completion targets, they will stay on your job until it's finished.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it creates that relationship where you don't have to go scramble and find guys on every different job. It's like, you just call I look at it, it's almost like in baseball, you got your bench. I got my good batters up first up. And then if they're busy or whatever, I have my bench. It gets a little bit longer. Yep. But when you pay on, that's just such a simple thing. It's like common sense. If they do the work and you pay right away, they know that you're a good customer and you're not going to jerk them around. Because I have so many investors. They're like, oh yeah, I'll pay you next week when I'm back from vacation. It's like, no, pay them right away when they do the work. Pay them. My guys love getting paid electronically. I'm like, you got Zelle, you got a wire. Yep. How do I pay you right now? You know what I mean? Whatever it takes. And it just creates so much loyalty. And they know a lot of my guys, like, they have crews, right? So they want to make sure their team gets paid because they're running multiple jobs. And when I demonstrate the velocity of payment on time, they're like, oh, this guy's not screwing around. And I'm going to go to bat for him. And I may, maybe he needs this done a little bit cheaper, but I know I'm going to get paid right away. And I refer them to other people, which people can't believe. I'm like, yeah, man, I refer them to people.
Yeah.
And then they get the referral business. It's amazing.
You nailed it. So you also, it brings up another point of having that process. you should be able to go on vacation and not have to worry about this stuff, because if your bookkeeper knows, or office manager, or whatever you want to call it, they already have the process of, here's what you get paid when this is done. And if the contractor comes and says, hey, here's the pictures, this is done, can I get paid? You're not involved in that process. You are on the beach, because nobody's waiting for you to write a check, because you shouldn't be. Okay. And another good point is, you wouldn't invite chaos into your home, right? No. Why do people allow contractors to come into their office? If you have an office and you've hit that, that point, I don't invite chaos into my office either. So my contractors know my system. You only get, if you deliver an invoice by midnight on Tuesday, you will get a check on Friday. And again, you train them, because you will find out really quick, if you haven't had this experience, that it's Chuck in the truck and he needs to get to the bar for some pull tabs on Friday. And he'll call you when he's loading his tools in the truck and say, I'm done. Where can I get a check? Where do we meet? Okay. I'm sorry, but my phone doesn't ring after 3 p.m. every day. Okay. And I've trained them to know that if they don't have, here's another thing to bring in, so that, because this is something that will injure you right away in your business, because you have to treat this as business. Nobody gets a check ever unless they are put into our system as a new contractor, subcontractor, with a W-9 and a certificate of liability insurance. Okay. So you do not, because when you come to the end of the year and your CPA comes back to you and says, hey, we have 42 people that you've paid 1099 to, and we don't have their social security or EIN number. So if you don't get these numbers by tomorrow, then you're going to pay this as income. Okay. This is your income, because we can't expense it. So guess how many people answer their phone on December 30th when you're asking for their social security number? 0. Okay. So, and again, if you ever get an insurance audit for every contractor that you've paid and you don't produce a certificate of liability insurance for that time period, guess who's paying the insurance bill? You are. So number one, you don't submit an invoice by this date, you don't get paid this week. Okay. Number two, you're not set up in our system with these documents, you don't get paid. Everyone has been trained. You will get guys that come to you and say, I've been in this business for 30 years and nobody has ever asked me for that. And my response is, I'm sorry you've been doing things wrong for 30 years, but I'm helping you run, and I'm actually helping you run your business the right way.
Run a real business, especially when you pay them a lot of money. Like, we'll pay contractors, $75,000. I'm not taking taxes on that. I got enough taxes to pay already.
No way. Yeah. And you don't want that call at the end of the year, because and I'll be honest, every year there are some that slip through the cracks.
Yeah. Okay? Oh, totally, man. No,
it happens. So it's just that if your business is running with processes and systems that are, for the most 90% hitting, then you are in much better shape than getting this huge bill at the end of the year that you are paying.
Oh, that's so true, man. So as we have 10 minutes left in the show, I want to respect your time. I want to cover a little bit more on what does Rehab Estimator Pro is a software out there. You just covered, earlier that it's very good with determining the cost. So like high level overview. And then at the end of the show, we'll have a link where people can check the software out. If you had to explain it in 4 minutes, if you had the 80-20, I'm an 80-20 guy. If you had the 80-20 Rehab Estimator Pro, how would you communicate it to someone who obviously would benefit tremendously from it?
Okay. Let's go back. We'll start with 2 things you can't ever screw up: ARV and repair costs. Right? So ARV, you can teach somebody in a weekend boot camp how to run comps, right? And get our number. We all get good training on that. And what it all boils down to is one thing, one tool that the entire country uses, that every bank, every appraiser, they don't turn in Redfin comps, right? It's MLS. So that is what the entire system is based on in the end, is the MLS. Okay. But when it comes to repair cost, we all pull a number out of our rear end, and everybody is supposed to trust that. How do you can't teach this in a weekend boot camp. So I made it simple enough to basically take my bookkeeper and have her go out as acquisitions. Okay. Because what we all need, and we know this in the front end, you need a takedown number. A takedown number is what everything else is built on. And so how do I get ARV quick? We know how to do that. Repair cost, you need a system that everybody trusts. All the way back into your private money lender. If your private money lender knows Rehab Estimator Pro, which many in the country now do, we have users in all 50 states, and they say, oh, here's the REP cost. Now I trust that you're doing the right thing. It's a visual of 3 pages: exterior, interior, miscellaneous, and mechanicals. You go down the list and you check the boxes. And as you check the boxes, it is being automatically built, your pricing for every single category that is showing up based on the square footage of that home. Okay. Now, major objection everyone has. Great. You mentioned New York and San Diego, and I'm in Wisconsin in the Midwest. I don't trust your numbers. There's no way that they work. And I call BS on you. Here's why. You know the takedown number you need, and you know the repair cost in order to get this job. Just because you're doing a flip in San Diego doesn't mean that if I go into Lowe's in Wisconsin and Lowe's in San Diego,
same shit.
The gallon of paint is $40, right?
Same
I may
thing.
pay more taxes, but here's the deal. Your house in San Diego might be 10,000 square feet, and I'm dealing with a 1,200 square foot house. My painter in Wisconsin is the same avatar as it is in San Diego. He's trying to put it right. He's just doing 10,000 square feet. I'm not paying him $40,000 a year in Wisconsin and $150,000 a year in San Diego. It's not true. So don't lie to yourself. You go through the numbers. It's an incredible tool to also sit down with your contractor and go through your past, because it takes literally 2 seconds to go and change your numbers if you need to. I have multipliers set up for every area in the country that you can just put a multiplier on it. But I highly recommend you do not use that until you actually go in and test the system, because I roll with contractors all over the country every day. I make adjustments to pricings. I do not make them market specific, but we know the number that we need to hit on that rehab, and we need to come up with it quickly and make sure it's accurate enough for us to take down that property. And so that is the system. That is the nutshell. Make it a checkbox system. Get rid of the fear of missing something, because you're visually seeing all of it. You're not going to miss anything on the exterior. And then you move to the interior, you're not going to miss anything. You move to mechanicals. It'll force you to look at every component of the house.
So good, man.
It's simple.
It's so good, especially too with rehabs. Like when you don't have it in a systemized way like that, and you're just kind of whimsically guessing. It's like for example, like we walked from a deal a couple of weeks ago and left our deposit up for grabs, which is fine. You know, I'd rather lose $3,000 than 30 grand. Right. You know, we went through a pretty good scope and I had everything drummed out. But then when I really looked at the numbers, I was like, this is a big project to make chicken feed profit. I said, nope, not going to do it, especially with septic, leach field, unpermitted work. Like, oh my God, doing permits, we could do a whole other freaking show on that. Right. But it's like, it's like you gotta know those numbers to make decisions. And like I made a decision to back out of a deal because I knew my rehab numbers. And if I was like guessing and I'm like, oh, I could probably do this for 15 grand. It's like, that's going to cost 9. Right. That's going to cost 9. And I haven't even gotten inside the house.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So you gotta, if you're doing this business, you don't have to be flipping the houses that Matt and I are doing, but if you're just going to do one project, if you want to do your first flip for a goal in 2022, you got to have your numbers drummed up tight, because that will set you on the trajectory and the path to have good rehab habits. I have some friends who've gotten in very big trouble rehabbing, and these guys are very rich. It's because of this construction. The construction went off the freaking rails and they've got in trouble, right? And it doesn't, just because you're making a lot of money doesn't mean you're doing rehabs the right way. You could have the market save you. You could get lucky a couple times, but
that's what's happening. Yep.
Oh, well, now it's changing with the market, right? Yeah. Now the truth's coming out.
Weeks, everything is getting pretty soft. Yep. Yeah. And so all these investors have been getting their butts saved because they're getting 40,000 more for the house than they thought they were. But those days have quickly come to an end.
I 100% agree. Now I'm like even more tight with my, I'm like telling the realtor the other day on this flip in Delaware, I'm like, all right, man, like you say 299. I'm like, let's probably put it on for 289. Right. Yep. And just see what we can do. I'd rather, time is real valuable with flips. I'm like, listen, if I can sell this thing in 30 days for 289 versus wait 70 days, 80 days for 299 and have some jerk buyer screw with me, which will take an extra 30, 40 days. I'll take the velocity and the project completion, maybe for a little bit of profit right now, than having to wait and deal with all this bullshit that's going on. So man,
we're entirely driven by timelines in this.
100%.
If I'm like, we just closed on one yesterday and we just got an accepted offer as well. Everyone on the team knows, reduce the scope to something that, if we're not going to finish that basement, because yes, it'll increase our bottom line. by 40 grand. But if I don't hit the timeline right now of mom putting their kids back in school, then we missed our window. Okay. So you have to have these timelines of the holidays, Thanksgiving to New Year's, spring, summer sales, school, all of these things matter when you're buying a flip and knowing, when am I going to sell?
Totally, man. It's especially with, I'm just telling my guy, all right, cool. So it's so funny you say that, because I have seen like a rehabber start a project, right? And this happens a decent amount. They will get into a project.
Yep.
They'll buy it at a time where, like, especially too, like you said, with the school season and stuff,
Yep.
they'll buy a deal in like July, and then their rehab will go over budget and it will go over timeline.
Yep.
And they're putting that home now on the market in the fall, which is like not the best time, at least in my area, to like get the most money, because everyone's settled in school. The winter's coming up. People hunker down for the holidays.
Yep.
And if they just had the timing better and the job didn't get delayed a month and a half, they're going to be exposed to the market that's going to be a little bit more in their favor. So just being able to systematize everything is just such a big help. And I'm glad you came up with this tool. I mean, the big thing about this tool that I'm excited to check it out after is, like, if you're brand new or if you're doing high level flips, it will benefit anybody. It's not like this is just for advanced people. This is just for beginners. It is for everyone. Heck, even if someone's remodeling their house and they're not an investor, they could use this tool. It's for pretty much anybody.
Listen, I have bankers that call me every week because they need to know numbers for an REO, because they're an REO banker, and they need to tell the bank. So I automatically tell them to put that 1.3 multiplier, raise it 30%, because the bank's not going to pay what we pay, right?
Totally.
So it's definitely a tool that way that you use.
Man.
Across the board. I have realtors that call all the time, because realtors are in homes with buyers or sellers, and they say, oh my gosh, we need to paint and put new floors in. Well, how much is that going to cost? Well, use the tool. Okay. So also, last, it is a huge bonus. Also, even take wholesaling. Tell me, if every one of your wholesale deals you put 25,000 on for repairs, you get tagged as a joke. You don't know the business. You don't know your numbers. What if you're delivering a Rehab Estimator Pro scope of work with cost to a flipper to say, by the way, here's your comps for ARV, here's my wholesale assignment fee, and here's the repair cost, and they're legit. Tell me, you just blew up your world, man, with people trusting you.
Made their life a lot easier too. And the transparency, you're not just trying to sell them bullshit. And then they'll take that and they could use that, and I do that. I'll give them the inspection report. I'll give them the freaking septic inspection. I don't care. I already paid for it.
Yep.
Who cares? I want to make their decision so much easier.
Right.
Versus having to be, all this BS. So I want to cover, if people want to check out, because the one more thing I want to cover before we wrap is the amazing work you're doing in the world. So I want to save that literally for the last part of the show. If people want to check out Rehab Estimator Pro, what's the best website they can check it out at? What is the website again?
So just what you said, rehabestimatorpro.com.
Okay.
Make sure you go in on the backside and use the discount code of Greg, GREG.
GREG. I'll make sure we got that in the show notes. That's an easy, let me just GREG. Look at that. Yep. So use the discount code Greg and get a special discount there. Matt's a great guy. And I just want to end the show with, Matt, you're doing some amazing stuff in the world. I mean, we donated earlier this year to one of your foundations. So just tell everyone a little bit about what you do because it's amazing to see what you guys are doing and you're so passionate about it, man.
Yeah, man. I it's really interesting because I was actually positioned with scholarship and ready to go be a doctor when I was young.
Wow.
And so started a family young. I have now 6 kids and 2 grandchildren. And but at that time it was, better get into the trades and start making some money.
Yeah.
And so little known to me that God used that to for my life right now. I build all around the world. And so we build everything from orphanages, schools all over, homes, churches. And so we do that all over. And so, yeah, even coming up here, we have Moldova, Poland, Turkey, Cuba, and Honduras the rest of this year still. So those are all building trips mostly.
You're going on those trips?
Yeah, I lead them. So I put together the teams, and that is my why. So, and my flipping business is what allows me to do that. And so that is the why that drives everything that I do. So
that's amazing, man. It's amazing that you're doing that. And we always see in the groups, the projects and what you're doing to make a difference in the world. And it's incredible. And it just shows the power of what this business can do to have that ripple effect in the world, right? Because making great money for your family and for yourself is awesome. But once you get past the point where you can pay your bills and whatnot, it's all about how can you make a difference with others? And you're making a huge difference in the world. And I sincerely respect and love that you do that. And everyone in our multipliers community just admires you for that. And I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that a little bit as we wrap the show up. So Rehab Estimator Pro, use the coupon code Greg. Matt, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Because I'm sure they're going to be like, oh, this guy, Matt's awesome. I want to just make sure I stay in touch with what he's got going on.
Yeah, man, I'll send you a Linktree as well that you can put at the end of the show, because I basically, as you see, if I combine all of my time for the year that I'm in other countries, it ends up being 3 months or more. So I've basically kind of abandoned social media. And so I can't like throw out a bunch of that stuff, because my time is my time freedom is very valuable to me. And that's why I've set up my businesses to allow me to do that. You can't do that without teams and processes and systems. 100%. So I'll just send you a Linktree. People can go check it out and get a hold of me. And I love it when for especially your tribe, people watching this, I love being able to help as far as rehab cost, their projects. I mean, I have people fly me out to their sites to deal with contractors or to deal with certain issues that pull up. I love giving back that way as well, to take all of these years of experience. So definitely get a hold of me, and I'm a giver. So
you are certainly a giver, man. It's amazing to see what you're doing, and we'll make sure we have all those links in the show notes. Matt, it has been an honor, man. It has been an honor. I could talk to you all day, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a fantastic weekend. And I appreciate you joining Pave the Way podcast for an hour.
Love it, man. I love hanging out with smart guys, man. And you are one of them. And it's an honor to sit with you here. So thanks for having me on the show.
Likewise, buddy. Have a good day.
All right. Peace.